So it's become a test of wills between Macron and the street.
How bad were these protests last night, Charles?
They were not huge by French standards. There have been protests, but there were a total of 300 arrests across the country. There have been protests for the last 2 months now. There have been 8 rounds of them with about up to 1 million people protesting each time. Yesterday in Paris, it was a few thousand. But it was on the Place de la Concorde where the revolution executed King Louis XVI and Marie Antoinette, which is very symbolic because the target of this is the present ruler of France, which is Emmanuel Macron, and people are very unhappy with him.
So yeah, remind listeners what it is that he's trying to do.
President Macron has forced through legislation which raises the retirement age all the way up to 64 from 62. This is deemed to be extremely brutal, cruel, and unjust by 70% of the French people, although they voted for President Macron to carry out this reform when they re-elected him last April. But this is an example of how France sees itself as an exception to the rest of the world, and it does not accept that people have to work longer to pay for their pensions, and they think that the government should reverse it.
The fact that he's using these special powers to push it through, does that suggest that he's determined to do this because there's so much money at stake, or do you think these protests might end up having an impact? Who will end up winning this one?
Well, it's always difficult to predict, but the last time people managed to reverse a pension reform after it was passed in Parliament was 1995. That's what people want to do. The resistance, as they want to do this time around. But the bill has become law now, or is on the verge of becoming law. So Macron would have to abandon legislation that's already passed, albeit in very difficult circumstances. So it's become a test of wills between Macron and the street.